everyone. Thanks so much for watching my video. This is Alina Araujo with Windermere Real Estate out of the greater Seattle area. I serve buyers and sellers and help you maximize your largest investment. On my channel, you'll find interviews with people in the real estate space like loan officers, 1031 exchange facilitators, and many more. So it'll help you learn more about real estate and making a sound decision on your next real estate adventure. Today, I want to talk about what a realtor actually does. There has been a lot of misconceptions out there that realtors, some realtors don't do what they say they do. And of course, every industry has, bad blood. But today I want to talk about what really a realtor does. I have worked in the space for over 13 years. I have background in hospitality and I was a loan officer for a few years before the crash. And I do get to see what realtors do well and what realtors do not do well. And hopefully you can find that person to help you in your next real estate transaction, that whether it's, here in Washington or anywhere else. Technically, my job is I have a fiduciary duty to you as my client to make sure I protect your money, your assets, and so no one else can sue you. Although I'm not an attorney, full disclosure. We have to keep up on our education every 2 years to make sure that we're up to date on laws, and that will help you to be protected in your real estate transaction. A contract could be hundreds of pages long and will help you decipher what it means for you as a consumer. With every client, I sit down and we discuss the contract. We discuss what terms are important in a real estate transaction. That just means that, how will it affect me as a consumer, not to make a mistake, and in the end, not to get sued and make money, of course, right? Contracts are very important, and we have to actually know what if something happens. So by knowing the contract, we will help you make sure that you don't make a mistake. I personally am not a very salesy real estate agent, although there are people out there who are very pushy. My job is to educate you as a consumer to make a sound decision, whether it's to buy a house in the Seattle area or to sell a house and relocate. I've been in the greater Seattle area for over 30 years. I've grown up here. I've gone to school here. I've made lots of friends and learned a lot about the area that I can kind of share with you. So if you are relocating from anywhere in the country, I'll be able to show you where to live, where maybe potentially not to live and not make a decision based on kind of like your lifestyle, and what mistakes you shouldn't be making. If you are selling your property, it's very important for you to, know what buyers are looking for, whether they are out of state or in state, and help you kind of along the way to your next destination. My job is to find you a reputable realtor, and I work with hundreds of realtors throughout the country to help you relocate out of state. With the rise of AI, a lot of people have been asking and even considering, do I really need a realtor? So I'll just break it down to you and tell you exactly why you may or may not need a realtor. In the rise of AI, we might be hearing a lot more of, hey, why do I even need a realtor if I can just go to chat and talk to chat about, getting advice from a real estate chat? Well, number one, you have to be careful because chat is still in the learning phase and process. It is not an attorney, and it'll actually tell you hey, don't take advice from me. You need to talk to a real attorney. Chat really can't give you real life advice, something that we have personally lived through hundreds of transactions, hundreds of hours of mistakes that our clients have made that we had to hold their hand throughout the process. And I tell my clients, listen, I will hold your hand as long as you let me, because when you're buying a house for the first time, it's a new territory, you don't know much. So my job is to give you step-by-step process. Now, first thing I would always tell my clients is no matter how much you love that house on Redfin that you saw and you want to go see it, you have to know what you're pre-approved for. And just by you doing the math on an app, yes, that could be a nice little overview of a calculator, but does it really break down all potential costs of home ownership, right? Whether it's principal and interest of your mortgage, insurance, if there's mortgage insurance, there's just so many things that chat is not going to take into consideration. Talking to a real estate professional who has been in the business for many years and has gone through the process of it, it's very vital. Not only will we give you advice which we have personally lived through, I have personally lived through, we'll provide with resources. People, for example, resources of a list of any contractors, any work that needs to be done in the house, whether you want to roll up your sleeves and do it yourself, or you'd rather have a professional, plumber come in and replumb your house. That's absolutely, I think every penny is worth it, right? You have to be very careful when you are talking to chat and trying to get some resources, right? It doesn't have experience. The fact of chat, it's getting experience through us. You as a human, you're putting in that information, and that is being transferred to the person. I don't know if a robot can actually show you a house. When you walk into a home, can a robot walk in and just look at the ceiling and realize, hey, they actually had a leak? And I could just see that there was like a little area that you might not have seen when you were looking at the house by yourself. You probably won't be able to have chat tell you the smell is kind of funny. I think there's black mold. It stinks and there's a reason why it smells, or, touching, smelling, feeling, like things that a robot or chat cannot tell you. So I think it's very important to have a human element of someone in real estate to actually hold your hand throughout the process. We are also unpaid therapists, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I actually do enjoy that part, because when I'm talking to you, I can give you life lived advice. On a day-to-day, what we as realtors do, or what I as a realtor does for my clients, I do a lot of research to make sure that you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. And that means digging into public records, reading the title reports to make sure there's no red flags that you should be aware of. There's a lot of paperwork that a seller fills out that a buyer has no idea how to really decipher, right? There's a document out there called seller disclosure form, and you really have to read it. It's a questionnaire that specifies information about the property. And if I see a red flag, I will bring it up and I will do the research. Right? So it could take hours, but I want to make sure that you get the proper information for you to make that decision one way or another. Here's one example that, took me hours, but in the end, it helped my client. My client was purchasing the home and it had a connection to a sewer line because the home was fairly new. In the contract, there's a section where it talks about whether the seller will pay off or the buyer will assume any charges or assessments. And the seller disclosure form, which is the document that a seller fills out, they have to put in everything truthfully. What happened was, when my clients was purchasing the house, they bought the home knowing that they don't need to pay for anything anymore because the seller will assume that cost, right? When the home was purchased, they received a bill in the mail. And they were like, what is this? So of course they called me, and it looks like there was a little bit of a mistake, that if we did not check off that box where it said, hey, the seller has to pay off a fee, my clients would have been in the negative, right? They would have had to pay that. But because I did the research, I presented that research to my client, and they made sure that they did not have to pay anything out of pocket, and it was all on the seller. That really helps. So I don't know if chat can actually help you mark that correct area, but that is something I feel like it's important. So there's so much in a contract that, if you're a new home buyer, you don't realize, which is why I'm there to hold your hand. And we go through the contract page by page so you realize and understand what you're signing on the dotted line. Here's an example for a seller. I had a client who purchased a home a few years back. He happened to be a general contractor. They ended up remodeling the home top to bottom. He was a licensed contractor. When it came time to sell the home, they have to fill out the seller disclosure form where it talks about whether you have obtained permits for any work completed or not. There's also a section that talks about, hey, do we have to disclose anything, right? My clients told me that, hey, we actually did not get the final permit from the city by adding a secondary bathroom. I told my clients, look, you have to over disclose anything, because what's going to happen is a buyer will come in, and if they find anything that's untruthful, there's a chance that you might get sued. They ended up over disclosing, which is, I always advise that. And they sold the home. We had a perfect buyer who, signed on the dotted line, understanding all the information. And that's, I guess it's useful, right? So we have covered quite a bit today. And if you're still on the fence that you don't want to pay a realtor and you might save the money and do it yourself, sure, you can absolutely do it yourself. But what you're not considering is how it can cost you 3x, 4x down the line when you possibly have to sell the home or you uncover something that you didn't think was necessary to uncover. My job is to protect your assets and your largest investment, a home. If you ever consider buying or selling, I would be more than honored to help you in the greater Seattle area. Again, thank you so much for watching. This is Alina Araujo with Windermere Real Estate here in the greater Seattle area. I help buyers and sellers in North Seattle, Woodinville, Bothell, Kirkland, and Kenmore. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I provide a lot of valuable content. Follow me on Instagram, and talk to you soon.